Hi, hopefully everybody's having a good day. Welcome to Career Day. My name is Juan Garcia. I'm an attorney. I've been an attorney for several years. I graduated back in 2008, I believe, and it was back in Houston where I got my degree, my jurisprudence doctorate. Before that, I had gone to San Antonio and I had gotten a degree in business and computers, and that was back in 2002 or 2001, somewhere around there. And then after that, I decided to become an attorney. Uh, it wasn't something that I had or that I always thought about being, but it's something that I always liked. So I kind of had it in the back of my head. So when I finished college, I said, oh, I'll give it a try. So I did, and it's been going good so far. Um, if any of you guys are having any ideas of becoming an attorney, I mean, it's not a bad thing. It has its good sides and its bad sides. On the good part, you get to work, depending, some people work a lot of hours, some people can work less hours, it just depends. And it depends on what field you want to go into, because when you become an attorney, you can do general practice, you can do, what's it called? You can do specific areas. Let's say, for example, if you want to do more, you like real estate, you might like criminal, you might like car accidents or people getting into accidents from medical or on the field, oil fields. I mean, there's different types of accidents. And then if you want to do, let's say, for example, probate, so that when people die or they pass away and they're transferring their goods from one person to the next, that's another field you can get into. You can also do divorces, custody, child support. I mean, there's several different fields. One of the things that I like to do, for example, is criminal law. It tends to be a little bit more interesting. It's more, I think, faster. There's more things going on. Let's say, for example, because people get arrested. So when people get arrested, there's usually a story. Most of the time, it's a good story behind it, an interesting story. So it's a little bit more fun than, for example, like the real estate. Real estate tends to be more boring. It tends to be about transferring properties, and there's a lot of typing involved, and so it's more paperwork type. There's less involvement with people, so it's a little bit more boring. So when it comes to a little bit more fun, or a little more, depending on your personality, if you're more fast paced and you like talking to people, then the criminal field is better. The same thing with family law. It's also interesting because there's a lot of stuff going on, so it keeps you, what can I say, more busy, and you get a lot more involvement with people. On criminal law, that's one of the areas that I do. I do criminal, I do family, I do probate as well. I do accidents. I also do, let's say, for example, traffic tickets. I also do a little bit of commercial, but not a lot. And I have my own office. And what made me decide to have my own office? Basically, I don't like having a boss. I mean, it's good because you can have your own hours. You can do whatever you basically want within certain rules. You don't have to be having somebody tell you what to do, or you did it right, you did it wrong. But at the same time, you don't have somebody telling you what you did right and what you did wrong, so you kind of have to learn it on your own. So that's why it's a good idea sometimes. If anybody's interested in starting their own practice, I would recommend that you talk to somebody else, another attorney. If you decide to become an attorney, talk to another attorney, and sometimes they can help you out. They can tell you, look, these are the things to do. Do this, do that, talk to somebody else. There's sources of information that you can use, and they can pretty much help you out to start off, in case you want to go the route of having your own office. Now, if you want to have the other route, which is to work for somebody else, it's also a good idea. Your pay is for sure, because you know that every 2 weeks or every week or whatever you're going to get paid. So that's a good thing. Which out here, I mean, sometimes you do, you don't. I mean, there's no for sure. So that's another difference. And working, let's say, for example, at an office, well, besides you get your salary every 2 weeks, you get to have other people that are around you. They can help you out. They can mentor you. They can work with you on a case that's very, very complicated. Instead of being on your own, you have other people around you that'll help you, that'll go to court with you. Because sometimes it can get very stressful depending on the case. Sometimes you can handle it on your own. And then there's certain cases that you might think you can handle on your own, but you can't because it's a lot of work. It's just a lot. And so you need people to help you out, researching or maybe talking to potential witnesses, because it's very difficult as an attorney to be, let's say, for example, you have a trial, whether it be on a family case, a criminal case, whether it be in an accident case. It's kind of hard to be on top of your office. It's kind of hard to be on top of the actual case, and it's hard to be on top of like the witnesses, talking to them, because it's very important to know what the witnesses are going to say when they're going to go to court, because you don't want to go there, show up to court, and then it turns out that the witnesses are saying something completely different from what you thought, which it does happen every once in a while. And that's why it's a good idea to talk to them. Many clients, the people you're representing will tell you, no, my so-and-so, they know this information, they're going to testify in my favor. And if you don't check out what they're going to say in court, you might have some difficulties, because sometimes what they're going to say isn't exactly what your client thinks they're going to say. So it's always a good idea to talk to them, see what they're going to tell you. That way you have a good idea, you know what, this witness is good, they're going to be helpful. And sometimes they're not going to be helpful. Now, sometimes there's cases where you have several witnesses besides your client that you need to talk to. And that's where you might need to have somebody else to help you out. Yeah, especially if you're going to trial and there's a lot of witnesses, you might have to have somebody else there that will talk to them while you're working on something else. So sometimes it's a good idea to have a partner. You don't really have to, but it's a good idea sometimes. And so let's say, for example, if you're going the route of working at an office, like I said, those are some of the benefits that you get. You get to have, let's say, for example, if you want to do a lot of trial work because you like that, you might want to work, let's say, for example, somewhere like the district attorney's office, because the district attorney's office, the federal, what's it called, the Department of Justice, they tend to do a lot of trials. So those two agencies, they do a lot of trial work. So if you want to get a lot of trial experience, those are two good places to go to and start, because they'll have trials pretty much every month. So it's a good idea to be there if you want to get that experience. And if you think about it, there's not a lot that goes wrong, because since you're not when you're working for the state of Texas, you're basically, you have your boss, but you don't have a client. I mean, your client is the state of Texas or the government of the United States, but it's different because, I mean, there's no particular person there. So you don't have to have the client calling you and telling you what happened, what's going on, are we going to win, lose, what's happening. You're not going to get that problem. Like when you have your own clients, people, I mean, they're going to come and they're going to call you, and they might call you at every hour. I mean, they might call you during your lunch hour, they might call you at night. I mean, they want to know what's going on, and you have to tell them this is what's happening. So it's a little bit different. So if you want experience and you want a lot of, let's say, for example, trial experience, it's a good idea to work at one of those offices. You'll be able to try cases if you want to every month or close to every month, depending, and you'll be able to get that experience. And it's for free. You don't have to, I mean, you have somebody else helping you out. You're getting paid for it by the government. So it's a good thing. And then, I mean, some people do it, and then once they're done doing that, they go off on their own, because now they had so many trials under their belt, and it's easier for them to be out there because they already have that experience. And they didn't have to actually kind of just do it on their own and figure it out. They had help from somebody else. So that's one thing to keep in mind if you want that. If you want to go a different route, let's say, for example, you want to do more civil, and then it's a good idea to work for a civil firm. They'll be able to have more civil cases. They won't do the criminal. But then again, it depends, because civil is kind of big. So it depends if you're doing probate. It depends if you're doing accidents. I mean, it just depends. But if you want to get more experience on that side, I recommend you work for a civil firm, probably some in a city like Houston or San Antonio or Austin, where they actually have a lot of trials. Because civil trials on the trials on the civil side are different than the criminal side. They tend to be a little bit more boring, and they're more work because there's a lot of paperwork involved when you're doing civil cases. So if you want to get that experience, I recommend you work for a civil law firm in a big city. A city like Laredo does have some big law firms, but they don't compare to the sizes that you would find like in Houston or Dallas or Austin or San Antonio. Those big, way bigger law firms, and they might have 10 associates, 20 associates working there that can help you out, and there's a lot of trials going on. So it's a good idea if you want to go that route to get the experience. Now, like I said, you can also do it like I did it, which is just to kind of go on your own. But as long as you have a mentor, you have somebody helping you out, you shouldn't have a problem. I mean, yes, every once in a while you have your clients that are a little bit complicated and very demanding, but I mean that's just part of the risk. Now, if somebody has a question to say, for example, on how it is to become an attorney, what you need is you need to have your first year bachelor. It doesn't have to be in a specific area. You just have to have a 4-year bachelor's degree from any accredited college, and then you have to take a test. There's a test. It's called the LSAT, and that test is basically they just want to find out if they ask certain questions about logic. It really doesn't have to do anything with being an attorney, but that's the test they came up with. It's a little bit weird, but I mean it's something that you have to do. You have to take that test, have the 4-year degree, and then depending on your grades and depending on your results on that test, because there's no pass fail. It's just whatever score you get. Certain law schools are looking for certain scores. So if you have the score that they want, and then they're gonna accept you. If you don't, they won't. So if you're looking into becoming an attorney, I would recommend that you start looking into like the different law schools. Start seeing which ones have what requirements as to the scores and grades that they have. Some of them do require essays. I guess most of them require essays. And so you might have to have some essays, you might have to do letters of recommendation. But the two biggest things is usually what grades did you get in college, and then what score did you get on your LSAT. And so those two things are going to be the biggest things that will influence them. And then after that, once you get accepted into a law school, then it's 3 years besides your 4-year degree. It's 3 years, and the first year is usually the hardest because you don't know. It's different. It's not like when you're studying at a college. The way that they teach you is kind of like a self-taught. They'll tell you, look, you have 3 chapters to read by tomorrow. And so you have to read those 3 chapters, and then you have to, let's say, for example, you have to go over all the different cases because that's all it is. The book has topics, and they have it organized by cases. So there's really no, let's say for example, there's no like paragraphs that you read and then at the end of the section there's questions. They don't have that. What it is just, let's talk about the concept of, is it constitutional to do this? And then they'll have like 10 cases. And then you have to read the 10 cases and you have to extract what information is important from every single case. So for example, you have to formulate, okay, this case, the main issues that were talked about were this, and this. And the answers to those issues are this, and this, and that you're supposed to get it from reading the case. Now, some cases can be 1-2 pages long, some cases can be 10 to 15 pages long. So you have to be ready because the next day, your professor is going to start asking you, okay, what did you think about this case? Or talk to me about this other case. So you actually have to stand up in the middle of class and you have to tell the professor, basically you're going to teach the class for that particular day. So you have to get up there, you have to talk about it, you have to say these are the issues, and then they're going to ask you questions to say, okay, but what if this were to happen? Then what do you think? And then that's when it starts getting into the analytical part to see if you really understood what you were reading. Now they're going to ask you questions that sometimes are complicated because since they know the material really well, they start kind of going forwards and backwards, and so, but they're just testing you. Now, a lot of people take that, they take that negatively because it feels like everything's on you, but that's the way that's the way that they do, that they teach you. And so it's 3 years of that. I mean, the first year is the hardest. The second year gets a little bit easier And then the third year is kind of more clinicals, working with people, less tests. The tests sometimes tend to be essays. They're not multiple choice. I mean, some professors do have multiple choice, but other ones just have essays, or maybe just one question and you have to answer that question, and that's it. That's your entire grade. One question for the entire semester. So it's a pass fail on just one question. So that's it. Once you pass it, that's your 3 years. There's a bar exam that you have to take. You have to get, I believe when I took it, you have to get like at least a 65 or above to pass it. I don't know if they changed it now. That was like 10 years ago, but I don't know if you require a higher score. But at least back then, it was basically a 65 and you would pass. And that's it. Once you take it, you wait a couple of months. They give you your result, and if you pass, congratulations, you're an attorney. If I guess I don't know if anybody has questions, but I guess there's nobody here.